Welcome back to Ecocentric. Today it's soaking wet outside. I had planned to do some harvest of some peas and seeds, but that's something you want a little drier weather to do. And yesterday I harvested this bucket full of Ida red apples. I cut one open, that's why he's got the elastic band on him. It's September the 5th now. So these are ripe enough to be really tasty, but you see, while the apples are ripe enough to have a good taste, here's one of the seeds. It's still white. When the apples are fully ripe, those seeds will turn a dark brown. So the plan for today is to make some dried apple and what won't fit in my dehydrator. This is the trays for my dehydrator here. Then I'll put the rest in the freezer. With the peels and the cores, we're going to make apple juice. We'll put the peels and the cores in there. And this bowl is for the first step. When we make the slices, we'll put them in there until we're ready to lay out the trays. There's water with lemon juice in both that bowl and that pot. And this pot we'll put the extra pieces, because when you grow apples organically, you're inevitably going to get these fungal spots, and of course the blossom end here. We don't want to put that in. We could put the blossom in, but I'm going to cut that off and put that in the compost. And any blemishes, such as the fungal spots and where they hit the ground, if there's any rot spots, that kind of thing, will go in the compost. And there's our 5-gallon bucket full of apples. That one, because I've already got them sliced, I'll put him back right there for a minute. I have one of those apple peeler things that you stick on the suction cups on, and you stick the apple on the forks and turn it and it goes through. But they're only good for the perfectly shaped apples. So what I'm going to do, I'll just cut the bottom off, throw that in the compost, and use the regular vegetable peeler. And I'll throw that over in that pot. Then, because I want to make rounds, I'm going to have to I've got another plan. I'll use what we got, the hole saw kit. Thought I was going to have to go for that as well too. Throw them in there, throw that piece over in the other pot. See, I get perfectly round rings of apple to make my dried apple rings. Let's see. See, a lot of the apples, they're just perfect actually. So all of the peel will get to go in to make our apple juice. That's something you'll want to experiment with, depending on the type of apple you're using and how ripe it is. You might want to have these pieces thicker or thinner. Wasn't quite big enough, that one, see? So I'm going to have to put the bigger one down now to get all the core pieces out. You see what I was talking about the white seeds? Let's see, I'll take one that's got some fungal spots on it. So I'll take the fungal spots off first, throw them in the compost. Take the good peel off, throw it in the pot. Throw the ring in there, poke that out, throw it in the pot. Let's see if I can get just the right size. That's going to be hard on the hand after a while. Let's try something a little different. So far so good. The core is to the side on this one. No, it's too small. I'm going to throw the whole piece in the pot. Up. Excuse me, that way please will quit. No, throw pieces in there. So that's that process. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to put these pieces in the dehydrator. I wanted to make rings. It was taking too long. So what I started doing, I take the paring knife. It's much easier to get those blemishes off. And also easier to get the end piece out. This is, of course, what a paring knife is for, peeling vegetables or anything else you want to take a slim piece off of. Then I started just shaving off pieces with a little bigger knife. You hear that crack? Maybe not. But you'll be able to feel when you get into the core. That's the core. So it's faster, but you end up with more of a core to discard. In this case, not a big problem because we're going to use that core to make apple juice. And so I've been doing that. So you got your rings, which is typical if you're going to buy a dried apple. And very little wastage. Or if you want to do it faster, you just get pieces like this. And you'd have a bigger core and use your cores to make apple juice. So we're laying them out, making sure that they don't actually touch, but putting them as close together as possible without touching, so that I can get as much on a tray as possible. Now this is the point at which you would, if you wanted to put extra, like some spices on for flavoring, a lot of people sprinkle cinnamon on them. Just for demonstration's sake. Because the rest of them I'm not going to put cinnamon on or any other spice. I'm just going to have the dried apple. Then I had to flip them all over. This part is not necessary, but sometimes your shaker don't put it out fine enough and you get blobs like that. So if you want, you can just spread that over the apple like so. Anyway, this goes into the base. And I'm just going to put them in like this because, like I said, I'm just going to have plain dried apple. That's a thick one. I'm just going to throw them in to make apple juice out of it. It's too thick for the dryer. My dehydrator has out around here, it tells you the temperatures to set different things on. And here we have fruits and vegetables, 135 degrees Fahrenheit or 57 degrees Celsius. So I have to turn this dial over there. You see it doesn't click, so it's a continuous temperature grade, but if I point it up here, 135 Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius, then it'll be at the right temperature to dry fruits. If you're doing this, say, in your oven or something, then you'll need to get that list, which you should be able to find on the internet, what temperatures is for what the particular thing you're trying to dehydrate. So now I just need to plug it in. I'm going to fill up those 2 trays and put in there as well. I switched the apple pieces that I'm going to turn into apple juice to a smaller pot because I realized I wasn't getting enough for the big pot. I finished filling up the dehydrator, and then I took some of the apples that had a lot of bad pieces on them. I cut off the bad pieces and threw that in the compost, and then I just chunked up the apples like this, so that now you can see if I were to press them down, there's enough water in there to cover the apple pieces. They're not covered now just because apple pieces float. Now we have them put on the stove. I'm going to turn the element on high. Put a cover on it, and we wait for them to come to a boil. Now the pot is starting to move. Got a lot in here, so I can't really have it come to a full boil anyway, but that doesn't matter. What we wanted to do is bring it up to a boil and then turn it down. Whatever the setting is on your range that brings it to just simmering. So for mine, it seems that I have to turn the almost off. See, it's really boiling there now. So I'm turning it right down to the low setting. Apple cider is basically apple juice with a little bit of pulp in it and several spices. Some people don't like the spices in apple cider. I am just going to put in 1 cinnamon stick. You need to put them in now to get the flavors to come out of your spices or cinnamon and go right throughout the liquid. If you try to put them in later, it won't have the same effect. So I've got to turn right down to low. I'm going to leave a little gap because if I put this down and it's too warm, it'll spit water everywhere. Now we want this to simmer basically until those apple pieces goes completely to mush on their own. It'll take about 2 hours, maybe more. So it's been 2.5 hours. Take just my regular spoon. You see how the apple pieces now have just all fallen apart. The skin holds together more, of course. But as for the flesh of the apple itself, it's just gone completely to pieces. And this is either red, so you see the skin, there's no color left in it. That'll be out in your apple juice. You got a red tinge to the apple juice. What we'll do now, it's good to have 2 pots about the same size when you're doing this. And the regular is a fine mesh sieve. Put that over that other pot. To start with, we're just going to move the pieces over there into that mesh. The reason I'm dipping them out like this rather than just pouring it from one to the other is because there may be too much apple pieces for the sieve that I'm using, and of course if it overflowed then I'd have a problem. So what I'm going to do is just keep dipping this over. I'll get most of it out, and then I'm going to leave that like that now and let this here drain for a while. I had this sitting here for 20 minutes now. I was only going to let it sit for 10. It's not dripping, it looks fairly dry. I'm going to add it to the compost. If you were using actually just good apple pieces, you could take that and make fruit leather or applesauce or something out of it. Now I know for sure that there's not enough pieces left in this to overflow that colander thing I got there, so I'm just going to pour it through. Make sure I turn off that burner, and we'll wait again for that to drain. Actually, I forgot, we got to keep this warm for this next step. That's drained now. Just put that over there. And this is a matter of personal preference. Oh, I got a leaf in there somehow. I'm going to put 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar in here. Personal preference, you do this to taste. The thing is, doing it when it's hot, it's easier to get the sugar to dissolve into the apple juice when it's hot. Technically you could do it when it's cold, but then you might have to resort to white sugar then. So here's what we have. The color will depend on the color of the apple peel. So if you had like Granny Smith or something, this would be green. Perfect. I like it better when it's cold, but it is also good hot, and another one of those personal preferences. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and hit that like button, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.